Trade has existed for as long as human society has existed. Even in the most primitive hunter-gatherer communities, if one group made a surplus of food, tools, or clothing, they would exchange it with another for something they needed. As human communities became more complex, groups and individuals began to specialise. If one group excelled at farming, they could grow more than they needed and trade with a group who specialised in making tools. Both groups would have everything they needed far more efficiently than if they tried to make both tools and food themselves. It is in human nature to try and get the best deal possible, and it was inevitable that the rich and strong would begin to enforce terms of trade which benefited them to the detriment of any other party. Empires were forged by violent countries so that they could get cheap access to food, gold, raw materials, and a captive market to sell their own goods at exorbitant prices. As trade expanded and empires struggled for dominance during the 14th, 15th and 16th centuries, so many wars were fought either directly over trade or to obtain territory in order to expand trade. Yet, as areas of influence began to settle, it became increasingly apparent that there was profit to be had in more neighbourly trade. Adam Smith wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, advocating for free trade, where everyone was free to buy and sell goods without interference from government. Yet this idea naturally meant that countries with more natural resources, more things to trade, would get richer at the expense of those with less. So a competing philosophy of protectionism also thrived, where governments would impose tariffs and quotas on imports that would interfere with their home industries. For example, if it was cheaper to import boats than buy them from your own shipyards, then a country's shipbuilding industry would quickly go out of business. Yet countries sought to protect industries such as this so that they could have a guaranteed supply in the event of war. During the 18th and 19th centuries, most countries exercised some form of protection for their industries, but gradually among the richer empires like Britain and France, the idea of free trade won out. As this idea expanded, so did trade, but with little or no enforcement of any free trade rules, trade wars became frequent as a means of forcing countries to abandon subsidies or restrictions on trade. It wasn't until 1947, after the end of the Second World War, that most countries came together to sign the General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade. This set out the rules for when and how it was legitimate to impose import restrictions or subsidise industries. Every few years all the member nations would meet together in what was called a round to amend the rules and solve any disputes. In 1995, GATT was superseded by a new body, the World Trade Organization, which continues to resolve disputes and enforce an ever-changing set of rules. The World Trade Organization forms the basis of all international trade, and their rules are what countries follow in the absence of a discrete agreement between two trading countries or a customs union. Just what these rules give a country and expect from them, we will explore in the next video.